Yes.
Um, yes. So if you go to github.com, I'm going to put a link in the Zoom chat. Yeah, so everybody should get this link, which is a github.com. This is a repository that I made public, and which is Miracle Solutions LLC, and there's a Python repo and everything. Okay, so this is a dummy repo I created some time back, but anybody can work on this. Okay, so the purpose of this session is to make sure that you know how to get the code, how to modify, how to check in the code, and all that. Okay. So every company has a repository, okay? That is where all the code is stored, okay? And github.com or GitHub is the primary source right now. Almost like 95% of the companies use github.com, okay? So all the code lives in github.com, and from there you're gonna get the code, you're gonna modify and push back the code and all that, okay? So this is something that is absolute must for you guys. It doesn't matter whether you are on DevOps, whether you are in testing, developer, it doesn't matter. Every code lives in github.com, okay? Even though I have a Python repo here, I mean, the process is very similar. If it's C++, anything, DevOps or maybe testing or anything. So you need to get the code, you need to work on it, and then maybe make some changes and push it back, okay? So that is what we're gonna look at in this session. And yeah, so I would recommend everybody to go to this website, the link that I posted on the chat, okay? So once you go there, I want you guys to, I mean, you should be logged in github.com. So if you click on your profile picture, you should see your name there, okay? So in this case, I am logged in as Miracle Solutions LLC, but you might be logged in with your own username, okay? So just make sure that you are logged in and go to this link, Python repo, and then click on this fork, okay? So you should see an option to fork it, okay? So what we are doing right now is we are getting this original repository, which is under Miracle Solutions LLC, into your user space, okay? So the way GitHub works, okay, so let's see this, okay. Yeah, so okay, so hopefully you guys can see this, okay. So there's an actual original repository, which is Miracle Solutions LLC Python repo. So that is the original repository, and you have that here, okay. So you're gonna fork it. Fork is gonna create your user repository, okay. So using that user repository, we're gonna clone to your local computer, okay. So that is what we're gonna do. So first, fork this repository. You should see an option here, fork. Click on it, and you should be able to copy to your user folder. Let me know if you're facing any issues or if you're done, so we can proceed to the next step. So what I want you to do is go to this link and click on fork. Okay, you should be logged into your github.com account and then click on fork. Yeah, this might be better. Okay, so this is the workflow that we are following right now. So you have the original repository, which we call as upstream. Okay, upstream means up, very high up in the chain. Okay, so that's upstream. Okay, you fork it. The first step is you fork it. You get it to your user repository. Okay, So just make sure that you get that. So you can see there's a main branch. I'm going to talk about branches in a second, but first make sure that you get this in your fork user space. And for those guys who joined late, you need to have an account on github.com. If not, you can create an account. And then go to this link, which is what I posted in Zoom chat. I just pasted again. Yeah, go to that repository and click on fork. Or let me know, guys, if you're facing any issues or if you're done. All right, guys, I'm still waiting for you guys to confirm. If you're okay, we'll proceed to next step. All right, guys. So I'm assuming that you all did the fork step. Okay. So let's go to the next one, which is once you fork it. Okay. So if you should see your user space and Python repo. Okay. And then go to the code. Okay. You should see a bunch of options: HTTPS, SSH, GitHub command line, and everything. Okay. So we can use either one of this, HTTPS or SSH. SSH is very preferable because you don't have to enter the password every time. Okay, so we're going to click on SSH. Okay, and you see these two rectangles. Copy those. I mean, if you click on that, that is going to copy this GitHub, this URL or the SSH link. Okay, into your buffer. Okay, so copy that, and then let's open the Git Bash. Git Bash is a software. If you're on Windows, you need a Git Bash. But if you are on Mac, you can just open the terminal here. Okay. So I'm going to start sharing the Git Bash here. Okay. Yeah, hopefully you can see the Git Bash also. Okay. So let me go to the directory, proper directory. Okay. So I'm going to create a temporary directory. So I'm going to go to temporary directory and I'm going to do git clone. Okay. So use this command. By the way, hopefully you can see the font size here. Let me see if I can increase. Okay. Yeah, this is good. So do git clone and then paste that link that you copied from here. Okay, so whatever we copied, the SSH command, SSH link, click on the copy and go to this what do you call the git bash command line. So you can launch git bash from your Windows using git bash search. Okay, so once you launch it, you will see this terminal. So create a directory if you want to, or you can even clone it wherever whichever directory you are currently on. You can do git clone. and give that GitHub link. Okay, so when you hit enter, it's going to get you the code. Okay, so if I do ls, I should see this Python repo folder there. Okay, so if I do ls Python repo, it should show me all the files that were here. Okay, so I had Kishan new p1 readme hello world and a bunch of other files. Okay, so you can see all those files here, right? So what I did just so far is that I forked it. I mean, what you guys are going to do right now is you're going to fork it. You're going to clone it to your local computer. Okay, so that is what we are doing here. So we fork it. We get to our in the github.com. You still have it in your user folder. Okay, and then you're going to clone it. That's going to get to your local computer, which is like local laptop, desktop, or whatever you're working on. Okay, so that's what we are doing here. You're going to clone it and get it to your local computer. Okay, yeah, let me know if you face any issues so far. Yes. Is anybody facing an issue or anything like that? Okay, all right. So assuming that everybody is okay so far, okay. So now, if you run this command git branch, okay, sorry, go to that repository which we cloned, okay. So I'm gonna do cd and Python repo, which is the directory that was created, and if I do git branch, it's gonna show me that there's a main branch, okay. So git is a command line, and using the git command line, I have a bunch of options, okay. One of the options is clone. That means I can get from the remote repository to the local repository. Okay, so clone means it's from this guy, it's getting to my local computer. Okay, that is what clone does. Now, if you say get branch, it's going to show you main. Now I'm going to talk about what does a branch mean and all that. Okay. 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 So let's say, okay, this is what it is. Okay. Yeah, let's look at the simple terms. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Okay. All right. So this is the main branch. Okay. So what does a branch mean in GitHub, right? What a branch means is that, see, you are working on something, okay? And then somebody comes and says, hey, I want you to work on something else, okay? That means you should put aside all your work, and then on the same project, you need to make other changes, okay? So let's say you're supposed to modify or enhance the software. You have like 5 files or 10 files. You're supposed to modify 2 files, okay? And you are in the process of modification, and somebody comes and says, hey, put that work aside. I want you to make this small change, okay? And then you cannot, I mean, if you don't have github.com, you have to create a backup of the file or save that file somewhere else, go back to original code, and then modify whatever the 2 lines or the new request they are asking you for, right? So instead of that, GitHub says you can create a branch. Okay, branch means you have a code base, which is the main branch. You create your own branch, okay, like a feature branch. Okay, so you're working on the feature branch, and somebody comes and says, hey, I want you to work on something else. You create a new feature branch. Okay, that means the main branch, you're taking that, you're modifying some files. If somebody says, hey, I want you to make some other changes, you create a new branch, which is like feature 2 branch, and you start making changes in those in that branch. Okay, and finally, when you commit, it goes here, and when you commit, that file gets merged and everything. Okay, I mean, It depends. In this case, you can see that this guy went first, but it can be possible that you might clone this later and that guy might come out first. Okay, so it can be that you're working on something and then you're making changes for somebody else. You need to put aside your work and work on the other stuff and then commit those changes and all that. Okay, so Git provides something like a branch. So here the branch is a feature one branch, feature two branch, and everything. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to create branches and everything. But by default, there's a main branch or a master branch. Okay, so there used to be a master branch, but github.com changed the default branch to main branch. Okay, yeah, so by default, you're going to see a main branch. Okay, this used to be called master, but now it's main branch. Okay, uh, so you might see the picture saying as master, but think of that as a main. Okay. All right, so we have a main branch here. So if you do git bash git and branch, that should show you that you are currently on the main branch. If you see a star next to it, that means you are currently on that branch. Okay. All right, so once you look at the git branch command, let's create a new branch. Okay, so to create a new branch, there are two options. Okay, so you can do git branch. Let me do this. Oh, okay, all right, so here it is. There is a git checkout command that is going to create a new branch and it's going to move to that branch. So let me use that first. Okay, so you can say git checkout -b. That means it's going to create a new branch here. And the new branch, I'm going to name this as amazing feature. Okay, or I'm going to say add some modeling, or let's say connect to DB. Okay, so let's say that is the work that I'm doing, connecting to some DB, pulling the data and all that, maybe generating a report. Okay, so I'm just going to say report. Yeah, let's call it a billing report. Okay, so that is what I'm working on, developing something. So I'm going to name that branch as a billing report. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. So this is the command to create a new branch. Git checkout -b is going to create a new branch. Okay. Now if I do git branch, you should see there are two branches here, main and a billing report. And you can see that the billing report is green color and it shows up a star next to it. A star means you are currently on that branch. Okay. So any changes you do there will be in that branch. Okay. Hopefully, okay. Let me give you these commands here. Let me put in a notepad and then I'll give it to you. So I'm going to paste that in the Zoom chat. Okay. So the first command is git clone. That is going to get the remote repository to your local computer. Okay. So once it's in the local computer, you can do git branch, and that will tell you what branch you are currently in. Okay. And then you can do git checkout -b, and you can name this branch anything. Okay. But don't name it billing report because everybody might be naming this billing report. We don't want any conflict. Okay. So you can name it with your own username or something creative. Okay. But don't use billing report because I'm sure it will conflict with my branch. Okay. So just create some branch name with your own username or maybe some creative name and all that. Okay. All right. Let me know once you're done with that. So do git checkout -b, and that should create a new branch. Okay. All right, guys. Any questions so far? Today Today everybody is silent actually. Okay, all right. I'm assuming that everybody is able to create a new branch, checkout, and all that. Okay, so once you're in that branch, I want you to create a new file. Okay, so you can launch your favorite editor like a VS Code, PyCharm, whatever you want. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to launch PyCharm. Okay, let me start sharing PyCharm also here. Okay, so it's launching still. Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to share that screen. So hopefully you can see the PyCharm also here. Okay, so I opened this directory in PyCharm, and I'm going to see all these files here. Okay, I'm going to close this. So I'm just trying to open one of the some of the existing files. Okay. So I'm going to go back here. For some reason, this is showing up incorrectly because at the bottom here, PyCharm should show me the correct branch here. So it's supposed to show me that I'm in billing report branch. Okay, for some reason, it's showing me that I'm on the main branch, which is incorrect. Python report code, Python report. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, I'm inside the temp Python report. Okay, so that's a different one. So let me go there. Temp, and inside the temp there is a Python report. Okay, so I'm going to select OK. There you go. So now we have the files, and one of the good thing with PyCharm is that at the bottom it will tell you what branch you're in. Okay.
Vasa, how did you check out the code here in PyCharm?
In PyCharm, I just went to the folder. I said open, right?
Okay.
And I went to the directory that had this folder, and I just said OK. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So once you open that folder, you should see at the bottom here. I'm not sure if you can see that, and yeah, it shows that the Git branch is that billing report branch. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you're in C++ project or Python or Ansible or whatever it is. Okay. So if you open, if you clone, and if you open in the editor, it will save it to that particular branch. Okay. So Git is smart enough to say that if you save anything in here, it will go only into this branch. It won't go into main branch or anything else. Okay. So all changes that you do are going only into this branch. Okay, so I'm going to create a new file here, which I'm going to call it, let's say, amazing billing report. Okay. I'm going to name it as amazing billing report.py. Okay. See here, PyCharm is helping me. Okay, it's saying that, hey, I can see that this is a GitHub repository, it's a GitHub clone, you did a clone, I'm in that branch and so on. So when I create a new file, it's saying that, hey, do you want to add this file to the Git? Okay. I'm going to say no here, but in general, you can add it to the Git if you want to. Okay. So for now, for this demo purpose, I'm going to say no, because you may not be using PyCharm. You may be using VS Code. You may be using some other editor and all that. Okay. PyCharm might be helpful. So I'm going to go with the traditional approach that I'm going to assume that the editor doesn't know anything. Okay. So I'm going to say cancel here. Okay. But you can also select yes there. But for now, let's go with cancel, so that we assume that the editor that you're working has no idea what is Git, GitHub, and all those things. Okay. Because some editors, like the old editors, they don't know about GitHub or anything like that. So let's say cancel there. Okay. And then we'll go here, and then let's put some text there. Okay. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put a comment here saying that this is the report that we are planning to add. Okay. Good. I'm going to save this file. Okay. So I just saved it. So I created a new file and I saved it. And you can see that the PyCharm actually shows that in a different color. Okay. It shows in the red color. The remaining files are in like white color and all that. Okay. That means there is something here that's not part of the GitHub. It's kind of indicating to me what that file is. Okay. So you can create a new file. You can name it anything you want. Okay. So you can actually put your own username if you want to, or you can create some random name. It doesn't matter. Okay. So once you create that, and if you go back here, and if you do git status, okay. So git status is a command you can run as many times as you want. Okay. It's going to tell you what's going on in this directory, in this branch. Okay. So here, when I say git status, it tells me untracked files. Untracked means this is not part of GitHub, and these are like new files that are created and everything. Okay. So what are the new files that are created? There's a .idea is a directory. This is created by PyCharm editor. Okay. And this is the file that I created. Okay. And it shows in the red color because this is something that's not part in the github.com, GitHub repository and all that. Okay. So it is something that I did not add it to the Git. Okay. Because it's a new file. I can add it to the Git and I can commit it. Okay. So that's what we're going to do right now. So what we are doing is going back to the picture here. Yeah, here. So we took the original repository, we did a fork, we created a user repository, and that we cloned it, we got it to the local computer, and from that we created a new branch. Okay. When you did git checkout minus B, I created a billing report branch. Okay. So I got a new branch, and we are working on it. Working in the sense we are adding some files, maybe modifying some files and all that. Okay. So here I'm working on a new feature, something like a billing report feature and all that. Okay. So we have a new, we are doing whatever the coding we are supposed to do. Okay. So I created a new file, and this tells me that, hey, you added a new file. Okay. And it also kind of gives me a hint that, hey, you may want to do this, git add whatever the file name, so that you can commit and send it back to github.com. Okay, so I'm going to do that, which is git add. Okay, so I'm going to do git add the new file name. Okay, and if I do git status, this time you're going to see it shows up in the green color. Okay, that means this is a file that wasn't there before, and we added for the into the github.com, and this is something I can push it out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you these comments in the chat so you can run this. So I put that in the chat. So when you run git status, it's going to tell you what's going on in the directory. Okay. So before I added the file, before I ran the git add command, it showed in the red color. and it said that, and it's saying that it's an untracked file. Okay. Now, once I did git add and then I do git status, it shows me that the file is in a green color. It tells me that, hey, you added this. Next time you're going to commit this file. Okay. All right. Now we have that. Okay. Now what can I do with this? Okay. So I want to see what are the changes that I did. Okay. So let's say I go to this file. I did some other changes. Okay. I did some changes. I saved it. Now if I go here and I do git status, that tells me that you actually modified, I modified the Kishan new one.py, okay? And it also tells me that you have a new file, which is this thing, okay? So any changes that you do, the git status is going to catch it and it's going to show you what you did there, okay? So take some existing file, modify that, okay? Create a new file, do whatever you want to do there, okay? Create new files, modify the files. You can even delete the files also, okay? But let's not delete the file for now, okay? Let's modify the files, or let's actually create some new files, okay? So let's start off with creating a new file, okay? So create a new file with your own username so it doesn't conflict with someone else, okay? All right, and then you can do git add of that new file. That is going to show up in the green color when you do git status, okay? All right, so far what we did is we made some changes. I'm happy with my code, okay? That means I tested, everything is beautiful. I want to commit this. That means I want to push it back to the main branch, okay? Now, I cannot directly push it to the main branch, but I can do this, okay? So when I do git status, it's showing me that this file is there, but I haven't added this file to the commit, okay? So I'm going to do that, which is git add, okay? And if I do git status, it's going to show me that I added a new file and I modified a new file, okay? Now, I want to see what changes there are, okay? So I can do git diff, and the git diff command can show me all the changes, okay? In this case, I added, so I have to use this minus cached option. So minus cached option tells me that previously it was a null file. That means it wasn't existing. And then we added this new file, okay? And then for this file, which is Kishan new one.py, there was this line. I removed that line, or maybe there was no new line. I added a new line and these changes, okay? Anything you see in green color, that was added. Anything you see in red color, that was removed, okay? So I removed that line, I added these lines, okay? So git diff command can show you exactly what got changed, okay? Yeah. All right, any questions over? All right, so once you do git diff, you are happy with your changes, okay? And I'm gonna commit that, okay? So when I say commit, I'm actually putting a message. So the commit is actually going to the local repository, okay? So far, I made some changes. I'm still testing it out, but now I'm happy with my changes. I want to commit that. That means these are the files that I want to send it out to my team members and all that, okay? So I'm going to do git commit -m, and I'm going to say added an amazing report. Okay. Now, it tells me that you actually changed 2 files. You inserted 5 lines, and you deleted 1 line, and all that, okay? And it says create mode. That means you're creating a new file, okay? All right, so that is what the commit shows. And if I do git status right now, it won't show anything, okay? I mean, git status doesn't show me that the files were added or anything, because git commit has taken care of committing to the local repository, okay? So there's nothing to show right now because everything is committed, okay? So you can say git commit -m. Message, okay? All right, now I have all these changes, okay? Now I want to push it out, okay? So I'm gonna do git push origin, okay? So what is origin? Okay, so if you do git remote -v, remote tells me what is a remote repository, okay? So in your case, The remote will be your own user space / python report.git. Okay, so in my case it is Miracle Solutions LLC because that's where I got the code from. Okay, so before you do that, do this git remote add upstream, add an upstream, and add this repository as an upstream. Okay, um, yeah, okay, so I'm going to give you this command. Okay, so add that upstream as whatever I pasted in the Zoom chat. Okay, so now you have two things. One is origin. Origin means your own user repository, and upstream is the actual repository. Okay, so if I go back to this diagram here, this is an upstream and this is origin. Okay, upstream means Miracle Solutions LLC repository. Origin means your own user repository. Okay, so that's exactly what I have here, which is origin, and you have an upstream. Okay, and we are here right now. We did a commit. Okay, we haven't even pushed so far, so I'm happy with my changes. They're all locally stored and everything. Okay, I did a commit. Now I'm going to do a push. Push means I'm going to send it to my origin branch. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Git push origin, and then I'm going to give the branch name. Okay, which is git push origin billing report. Okay. Okay, so how this configured as a different user. Yeah, okay. So I'm logged in as a different user. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about this. Yeah, in your case, when you say git config, that should tell you your username, email, everything should show properly. Okay, so let me change this actually. Give me 1 second. Yeah, any questions so far? All right, so I logged in as a different user, so I'm gonna change that to this guy, which is okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. I should have cloned this as a different user, but I cloned it as Rahul Rao, which is a different, completely separate user. And that user doesn't have the permission to push it to Miracle Solutions LLC. Okay, but in your case, you should be able to do git push origin and what are the branch name you created. Okay, so if you do this, that should push to the remote repository. Okay, so we are following this flow where you did your changes in your local branch, you committed, and then you're doing a push. Okay, push to the origin. Okay, so once you push it to the origin, you should be able to create a pull request. Okay, so that's what I want you to do, which is push, do git push origin, and what are the branch name that you created. Okay, I'm getting an error because I'm logged in as a different user, but you should not get an error. Okay. If you run into any issues, let me know. And I want to see every one of your file names here in this repository. Okay. If you are not pushing the file, that means you are not doing the steps that I'm telling you to do. Okay. All right, guys. So once you do git push, you should get a URL. Okay. Go to that URL, and you should be able to create a pull request. Okay. I mean, if any one of you have that URL after you do the git push, let me know, and I will ask you to share your screen, and then we can create a pull request.
Yeah, can you show me push command?
Oh, push command, sure. Yeah, this is the push command, which is git push origin. I'm going to paste in the Zoom chat. Git push origin branch name. Okay, so your branch name might be different, but yeah, do git push origin and the branch name. Yeah. Does anybody have the push command successful? Yeah, if you have it successful, you should see a URL there.
Yeah, mine is successful.
Okay, can I ask you to share your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Let me stop sharing. You can just share that window, which is a git bash window. You don't need to share the whole screen.
Yeah. Can you see?
Yes, yes. So that's what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Now go back to that git bash command line.
Okay.
All right. So here Venu pushed, and you can see that when you do git push and all that, you should see it says that this URL. Okay, so it gives you a URL saying that, hey, if you want to create a pull request, go to this branch, go to this URL and all that. Okay, so you can copy that URL, put in a browser. So go to your browser. Yeah. Yeah, paste it. Yeah, so that should, yeah, anything. Yeah. Okay, so this shows that, hey, you have this, this is, okay, scroll up actually, 1 second. Yeah, it shows that this is your repository and this is your branch, and you're pushing that into Miracle Solutions main branch. Okay, so this is what the URL does. Okay, so it takes your branch and it tries to combine the changes into this branch. Okay, so now you can put some description here. You can say you added whatever, and you can put some description here also. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Like if you scroll down, you should see all the changes that you did. Okay. Keep scrolling down a little more. Okay. So yeah, you added this things and you created a new file and everything. So this shows up. In the red color, it's like lines that are removed, and green color, the lines that are added. Okay, so you can also click on unified view. So that is unified. Actually, do the split view. Split view shows on the left side, right side. Okay, on the left side, this is actually better than the previous one. The left side is an old file and the right side is a new file. Okay, so it shows that here you removed the line. There was no new line here. You added this, you added a new line, you added this. And this file wasn't even existing before, and you added this on the right side. Okay, so there are two modes. You can do split or you can do unified view. Unified means it shows up in a single side, but split is a better option. So you can see exactly what got changed and all that. Okay, now if you scroll up, yeah, so you can do create pull request button. That means now what the user is trying to do is that, yeah, create on this pull request. Yeah. So now the user is trying to merge from that repository or from this repository to Miracle Solutions LLC. Okay. Now you cannot do anything here because you're not supposed to. I mean, you don't have the permissions in this repository. Okay. I have the permissions. Okay. So as soon as you create a pull request, I'll get an email saying that, hey, this user is trying to create a pull request. Okay. So now let me start sharing my screen. Okay. So here I am in the original repository, which is Miracle Solutions Python repo, and I'm going to do refresh. Okay, so it shows up as pull requests 1. Okay, so on the top it shows there's one pull request that somebody created and all that. So if I click on that, it shows that this is the title that the user put in, and it's number 8. I mean, there were some pull requests that were created before this, but this is the 8th pull request. And this was opened 1 minute ago by this user and all that. Okay, now I can click on that. And this is the description that was put there and all that. Now I can go to files. Okay, and I can see that what are the changes that that particular user did. What are the files that are created and all that. Okay, so I can change this to split view. Okay, the same thing as what we saw before. I can do apply and reload, and this shows up in the split view. And sometimes the white space doesn't matter. I mean, the new line, I don't care whether he adds a new line and all that. Okay, so I can say hide the white space. That means I don't care about the new lines, white spaces, tabs, those kind of issues. So I can say hide white space. So you can see that he added a new line here that doesn't show up anymore. Okay, so these are the two things he did primarily. Okay, I added a blank line and added a comment and these things. Okay, now let's say that I'm happy with the changes. Okay, so I can simply go here and I can say approve. Okay, so I can go to review changes and I can say approve and I can submit. Okay, that means I'm accepting whatever the user did into the main repository. Okay, so here when you join a company, they're going to have a GitHub repository. Okay, you're going to clone it, you're going to create a new branch, you're going to make some changes, and then you're going to push it out. When you push it out, you're going to create a pull request, and that will send an email to the team members saying that, hey, this user is trying to modify the code. They're going to go there and they're going to see what are the changes you did. Okay, because they're not going to go to your local computer and see the changes. Okay, you have to push your changes so that it shows up here. Okay, and once it is here, the other users can actually accept it, or they can even put a comment here. Okay, so I can put a comment here saying, can you please remove this line? Okay. Or maybe whatever the comment can be. Okay, so they can start a review and so on. Okay, so users can comment on it, and then the user is going to see that the person who changed the code is going to see that comment. He can make the code changes further, and then he can push it again. Or maybe there can be a discussion. Okay, the other guy can say, hey, this is beautiful. I don't agree with you that this line should be removed. Okay, so and then pretty much you're going to come to a conclusion of what's the right way to do the code. Okay, but there can be some comments back and forth and all that. Okay, so nothing wrong with the comments. It's just that the other person is suggesting, hey, maybe there's a better way to do the things. Okay, so accept the comments in a positive way. Okay, but once everything is resolved, the other person is going to say approve. Okay, so I'm going to submit this. And okay. All right. So here is the, so once I accepted that, it shows up as merge pull request. Okay. Now this button, I can press it or even Venu can press it. Okay. It doesn't matter. Okay. So here I'm actually pressing it, but in general, Venu is supposed to press it. Okay. It's only my job to comment, approve and all that. I approved it, but usually Venu is supposed to press this button, merge pull request. But in this case, I'm actually doing it. Okay. So now what happened is these changes that were in this branch got merged into the main branch. Okay, so now if I go back, this file shows up here. Okay, Venu billing report.py. This wasn't there before. Okay, so this was added just now, and everybody is going to get this file now. Okay, this file wasn't existing before. Now anybody who goes to github.com and looks at this file, they can get this file. Okay, but yeah, that is how you're going to make changes in the github.com. Okay, so you're going to clone it. First you're going to fork it, and then you're going to clone that fork, and then you're going to create a new branch, make some changes, add those files, commit those files, push the changes, create a pull request, and then merge the pull request. Okay. Maybe I can put in a notepad and I can share the notepad here. Hopefully you can see the notepad. Okay. So this is the first thing you're going to do. Okay. You're going to clone and you're going to checkout management. And if you want, you can do get branch. Get branch is going to show you that branch. And then you're going to add, make the code changes here. Okay. Add files, modify files, whatever you want to do. And then you add the changes. Okay. Add file 1, file 2. Okay. And then you do git commit with the message. Okay. You can put some message. Okay. And then you're going to do git push origin. What are the branch names that you created? Okay. Okay. So once these are the steps that you follow. Sorry. These are the steps you follow. And then once you do that, it gives you URL here. Okay. So you say URL. If you go to that URL, then you can create a pull request. Pull request is called PR. And then once the PR is merged, once the PR is accepted, you can merge it. But once it gets merged, that's when it goes to the main branch. Okay, that is where it ends. Okay, so these are the steps that you need to follow to get the code, make changes, and push it back. All right, any questions so far, or anybody facing any issues? There is one step I purposefully skipped, which is setting up the SSH keys. I just wanted to see how many people want to complain that they're facing issues. But yeah, if you face any issues, let me know. So yeah, okay, that's fine. So I want to see a file based on your name or something that should show up on the main branch. Okay. So feel free to name the file anything, but yeah, you can create a pull request. Yep.
Actually, in my branch, should I create any file locally in my computer and then add it to it?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, you need to create a file locally, or you can modify some existing file also. Anything is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and then add it, and then commit it, and then push it.
Okay.
Yes, especially for the people who are currently working, I want to see a file in the GitHub with your name. I mean, it can be any name, but I just want to see you are able to successfully use the GitHub, create a branch, push it out. Okay. So Ashwini, Ketana, Raghu, and others. Yeah. So I want you to push a file to this repository.
I'm getting an issue with starting.
Okay.
I mean, like before, I have GitHub open, but it is saying that password is wrong.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah. So
yeah, maybe you reset the password and try to see.
I'm trying to reset the password.
Okay. Okay. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
But it is asking something like this one, verify your account, and
okay.
that's where it is showing something.
Okay.
different.
Okay. I see. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you can look into that reset of the password and all that. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, sure.
Ashwini, are you able to push the changes? Ashwini, Ketana, or others? Come on, guys. I need to see the file. It's already 10 o'clock. I was expecting this to take like 30-40 minutes, but it took a little longer. So if you're facing any issue, let me know. I can help you with that. You know, instead of having a one-on-one sessions or anything like that, this is better actually. Everybody's going to benefit. Yeah, Jawhar. I want to see one other user, at least one other user able to push it. Then I'm going to move on.
Hello.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jawhar. Yep.
Yeah. In my branch there are like files and folders. So I have a Python repo from there, which I forked from there.
Okay.
So I created a file inside that one.
Okay.
How do I do that git add with the file?
Show me. Share the screen. Let me see the setup.
Okay.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
So,
do PWD first. Actually, I just want to see which directory you're in. Okay. So you're in the home directory. Okay. Do ls. Okay. So you should have that Python repo from Mira. Okay. So that's what you named it as. Okay.
yeah.
Do cd to that directory. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Now do git remote -v. So git remote is going to show you exactly where you got this from. Okay. Git remote -v. Yeah. So you got this from your own user repository. Okay. That's fine. Okay. Do git branch. I think you have a typo there. Hit enter. Okay, you're on the main branch. Okay.
Okay.
Git status. Yeah, you created a new file, but you haven't added it. That's fine. That's good actually. Okay. So now you can create a new branch. Do git
I think I
checkout.
created a branch outside in my
Oh,
here.
you created outside. Okay. How can you even create one? If it's not a Git repo, it should not let you create unless that was a different repository.
Here I created this branch.
Yeah, Git should not let you create actually. Wait 1 second. Do git branch. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I
to
did. Oh,
yeah,
branch.
just to git branch. Yeah, hit enter. JBilling report. Okay. Do git checkout. Do git checkout JBilling report.
Okay.
I think CHECK. No, you don't do -b. -b is going to create a new branch. Okay.
Okay.
You already have a branch. Yeah. So
Okay.
you just do git checkout. Yeah. Okay. Now it says that switch to branch. Now you are in that branch. Okay. Now do git status. All right. Now you have the file which is jawhar.py, right? Now do git add jawhar.py. So what you're doing is you are adding this file into this branch, which is JBilling report. You are adding this file. Okay. So now do git status. Okay. See, it shows up as green color. That means, hey, you are good to go. That means at least this file wasn't there before. Now it is there. Okay. Now, if you want to see what changes, you can do git diff and all that. But we know what, we don't care about those changes. So for now, we'll say git commit. And you can put a message, say space -m. And in the double quotes, you can put some message. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yep. So yeah, it says one file, one insertion. That means one line is there and all that. Okay. So now you did commit to the local repository. Now, if you do git status, you should not see anything. Okay. Right. It says nothing to commit. Everything is clean because you already committed to the local repository. Okay. Now you can do git push origin and branch name, which is JBilling report.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So when you do the git push, what it did is it took your local changes and pushed it to github.com. And it's saying that if you want to create a pull request, go to this URL. Okay. So copy that URL. And yeah, go to a browser. Yeah. All right. So it says, what are the description that you put there? Okay. Now, if you scroll down, these are the changes you did. Okay. So you added this line. If you want, you can do split view also. Okay. Yeah. This is the old file. This is a new file. Old wasn't existing anything. Now you have this new line and all that. Okay. So let's scroll up. You also want to verify that you are going from this branch, which is your user branch, going into Miracle Solutions main branch. Okay. This all looks good. Okay. Now you can press this button, which is create pull request. Okay. Put some description and yep. Perfect. Yep. All right. So once you create a pull request, you can actually look at files changed and all that. But at this point, you don't have much to do until somebody accepts or somebody does comment or anything like that. Okay. So I'm gonna. I think from your side you're done right now. Okay. So it shows up as open and everything. But once I accept it, this should show you as closed. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I can find it in the public, like in the Miracle Solutions.
Yeah, right. So once I accept it, it should show up in the main branch of Miracle Solutions LLC. Okay. So let me start sharing my screen.
Okay.
All right, so since Jawhar just created, I'm just going to refresh this page, and it shows up as pull request 1. Okay, so I'm going to do that, and these are the changes that he just pushed. And remember, I am in this repository, Miracle Solutions LLC. Okay, and I'm going to see these are the changes he made. I can accept those. Okay, or if I want him to make more changes, I can do request changes, and I can submit that. Okay. But in this case, I'm going to accept it. Okay, so I do approve, submit, review. Okay, and this shows up, which is like, hey, everything is good. You want to merge these changes? I'd say merge, confirm, and so this open became merged. Okay, so even if you, I mean, this is a PR that used to be open. Now that PM became PR pull request became merged. Okay, that means it got merged into the main branch. If I go here, this is a new file that was added. Okay, so that shows up in the main branch. Okay, this is how you would work on your code base. Okay, now there is different workflows in GitHub. What we did is one workflow, which is we did a fork. Okay, but some companies don't use a fork. They will ask you to clone the original repository. Okay, so you're gonna, instead of cloning your user user repository, you're going to clone the original repository. Okay, there is no like user repository here. You will clone this to the local computer. You're gonna create a branch and you're gonna push it to this guy itself. Okay, so here one of the advantage of using a fork is that those branches that Jawhar created, Venu created, will not show up here. Okay, but if you clone this guy and if you push it out, those branches will show up here. Okay, but yeah, there are different workflows. One of the workflow we followed is we did a fork, and then you worked on the fork, and then you created a pull request. Okay, but some companies don't use a fork approach. They would just tell you to directly clone it and directly push it to this repository itself. Okay. All right. Any questions so far? So one thing I kind of skipped through is there is a step that you need to do, which is SSH keygen. Okay. So SSH keygen generates a public key and private key. Okay. So you need to do that, and it saves in a folder, some folder. In this case, it created into this folder. So if I go there, there should be a public key and a private key. Okay, so let me open the browser, open the file explorer. .sh. Oh, sorry, let me start sharing this guy. So hopefully you can see my file explorer also. Okay. So here I went to this directory where I ran the, when I ran the SSH keygen, it told me that it created a public key and a private key. So this is these are two files. This is the public key, and this is the private key. Private key, you always going to keep it to yourself. It's private. Okay, so you're not going to give it to anybody else. But there's a public key. I'm going to open that public key. Okay, so this is a public key that is there. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go to the browser and go to settings. So if you go to settings, there should be deploy keys. Okay, so I'm going to click on deploy keys, and I'm going to add that key here. Okay. I'm gonna say allow write access. That means I should be able to modify the files or anything like that. Okay. I mean, you should be able to push it to this repository. Key is already in use. Okay. interesting. It says that the key is already in use, but it doesn't show up here. Let me add one more time. Yeah, it's interesting. So it says key is already in use, but here it doesn't show that. One second, maybe it's in a different option. Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but yeah, you should be able to add a new key there. Okay. So you should be able to add a new key, and you should be able to do git push and all that. Okay. So Jawhar and Venu already did it in the previous session, so that's why they are able to push it. But you might face an issue saying that, hey, you're not able to push it and all that. Okay. So in your case, you need to go to settings, go to deploy keys, and add a new key. Okay. Yeah, that key, which key you're gonna add is this command, ssh keygen. Okay, so I'm gonna put it in the Zoom chat. Okay, so ssh keygen is gonna generate a key. Okay. It's gonna create a public key and a private key. Private key you're gonna keep it to yourself. Public key you're gonna give it to GitHub. Okay. So what that does is every time you do a push, it's gonna use your private key to communicate and so on, and the public key is used to decrypt. So any data that you send, you're going to send it using a private key, and the public key is what is used to decrypt and all that. Okay, so you don't need to use a password anytime you do a git push or anything like that. Okay, there are a lot of tools that use SSH. Something like Ansible uses SSH and other things. But yeah, we can talk about SSH some other time. But yeah, do SSH keygen, and once you get a public key and a private key, yeah, go to github.com, go to deploy keys, and you should be able to add your key and all that. Okay. All right, guys. So that is that. Any questions so far on this? Okay. So let's move on. Let's look at something else, which is okay. So there are different frameworks in Python. Let's look at some of the frameworks. Last time we were looking at a requests library. We are talking about client server. We had Amazon.com or some URL. Postman, we use Postman. We are sending a request and all that, right? Now Postman is working as a client. Okay, so if I do REST API. Yeah, so we looked at this image. Okay. Yeah, so we looked at this image. We had a client. We went to the server. We got a JSON data, and we looked at get, post, delete, and all these things. Okay, so we looked at from the client's point of view. That means we used Postman, we used Python to make a request, get some response, and all that. Okay, so we did post, created a new user. We did a get, got some new employees, got the employee information and all that. We did a delete, put, and all those things. Okay, so we are working as a client. Now let's look at the server side. Okay, so there are different frameworks that can help you develop the server side code. Okay, yeah. So let's see what are the different frameworks. So let's say, I mean, the client can be in one language. The client can be Postman, Python, Java, JavaScript. It can be C++, C language, command line. It can be anything. Okay. The client can be in one language, the server can be in a different language, and they all communicate using JSON data. Okay, JSON is a standard. That is the data. It's a key value mapping, and that is used to communicate and all that. Okay. Now, the server side. Okay. Now, the server can also be in any language. It can be Java, Python, Go language, C++, or anything else. Okay. So there are different frameworks. So we're going to look at some of the frameworks. So let's say it's a Java. Okay. So in Java, there is something called a Spring Boot framework. Okay. Spring Boot is used to develop these REST APIs. Okay. Yeah, Spring Boot, build a REST API, and all that. Okay, so you have a if you are in Java, you would use a Spring Boot framework to develop that REST API. Okay, if you are using Go language, okay, so there is a Gorilla multiplexer, Gorilla Mux, and all that. Okay, so that is something used for developing the REST APIs and all that. There's also Gin. Gin is another framework in Go language and all that. Okay. If it is Python, you would use something like a Django framework. Okay, Python has a Django framework that can help you develop the REST APIs. Okay, there's also in Python. There's also another framework called Flask framework. Flask is also going to help you with developing those REST APIs. Okay, so yeah, so we'll look at these two frameworks, Django and Flask. There are some other frameworks also. Give me 1 second. I'm very close to an airport, and there are some private jets that fly very close and all that. So there's some disturbance there. So here, we're going to look at Django framework from a very high level. And then if time allows, we're going to look at Flask microservices also. Okay. So first we'll look at Django. And then we're going to go back to Flask. Okay. So Django at a very high level can provide you a couple of things. Since I have a REST API, I have a server, right? As a server, I want to get a request and I want to send back a response. Okay, so Django can help you with that. Okay, even Flask can do the same thing. Okay, now the server itself has to get some data. So there is a database behind. Okay, so I have to get the data from database and I have to send that as a response. Okay, now Django provides an extra thing which is called Django ORM. ORM means object relational mapping. Okay, so if you making queries, okay, so let's yeah, there you go. Okay, fine. So here is an ORM. ORM means that you have a class. Okay, so let me try to open this. I'm trying to find some high clarity picture. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, so here is an ORM. So Django provides something called an ORM module. That means Django, if you want to talk to the database, you don't need to directly go to the database. You can go to ORM and ORM can get the data for you and give it back. Okay, so I can have my code in Python and I can have an ORM class or ORM structure. I can say, hey, get me all the employees or get me all the students, and the ORM can talk to the database, get the data. Okay, now what is the point in using the ORM? You can go directly to SQL, get the data and all that, right? So one of the advantage of using an ORM is that in the future, let's say if you change the database, okay, so currently you are using, let's say, PostgreSQL. tomorrow you might use Oracle database, or you might use AWS relational data store and other things. Okay, so if you're changing the database, if you don't have an ORM, you need to change your Python code and all that. Okay, if you have an ORM class, you don't need to change anything. The ORM knows how to get the data from the database. It doesn't matter whether it's Oracle, Postgres, or anything like that. ORM has some mappings. Internally, it knows exactly what is the database and what is the select statement that you have to do to get the data and all that. Okay, so the advantage of using an ORM is that it gives you some kind of flexibility that you can change the database in the future, and it also helps you develop your code faster because you don't have to write a query to say get me employee with that employee ID 123. Okay, or you don't need to say get me all employees that were created in the last 2 years or 1 year or anything. Okay, so ORM, you can just say class dot name employee ID equal to 123, and that should be able to give you the data. Okay, so you don't need to sit there, write some SQL query, select statements or anything. The ORM class has all those mechanisms. Okay, so it can help you with getting the data and everything. Okay, so that's one advantage or multiple advantages of using ORM. Okay, now Django provides the inbuilt ORM. Okay, so if you use Django, that has ORM as part of it. Okay, but if you use Flask, it doesn't have an ORM. Okay, Flask is only going to give you this part, which is the server part. There is no database part of Flask. Okay, if you use Django, it can give you the ORM component also, and it can give you the SQL data and all that. Okay. So what happens if you use Flask? How can you get the database component and all that? So there's a third-party module called SQL Alchemy. Okay, SQL Alchemy is a database ORM. Okay, that can help you go to the database, get the data and all that. Okay. So this is a SQL ORM, is a SQL Alchemy. Okay, so that can help you connect to the database, get the data and all that. Okay, so if you are using Django, Django has its own ORM, but if you are using Flask, then you can use something like a open source third-party tool called SQL Alchemy, and you can get the data. Okay, and by the way, this is only for people who are into Python stuff. I know some of you are in C++ and other languages, and some of you are QA. You may not need this, but yeah, it's good to understand these things. So you have a server, and behind the server there is a database. You can get the data using raw query. You can write your own select statements, or you can use Django ORM, or you can use SQL Alchemy, or depending on your choice. Okay, if your server is Django, you're going to use Django ORM. If your server is Flask, you're going to use SQL Alchemy and all that. Okay, now that is to get the data. Okay, so let's actually try to have a simple server that can process our data. Okay, so last time we looked at GET request, and we got some data and all that, right? So let's try to create our own server, and let's try to do Postman, and let's try to get it. Okay, so open your Python.
What if in case of C++, how the server is to work?
Yeah, C++, there is a couple of options. There's a Microsoft has REST API. They recently released, yeah, CPP REST SDK. Okay, so this is a framework that Microsoft open sourced it. Okay, so if you're C++, there is a C++ REST SDK that can help you develop. And there's also something called Fast CGI. The other day we are looking at Fast CGI. This is also a so this is also something like a REST API framework that can help you come up with those request responses and all that. Okay. See, this library is intended as a high efficiency C++ API for web development. Okay, so it's very high efficient because it's a small footprint. The memory consumption is pretty low. It supports multi-threading and all those kind of stuff. But yeah, this is one of the C++ framework, which is Fast CGI. Okay. Yeah, and Microsoft also has open sourced something called CPP REST SDK. Okay. Yeah, that is also another framework we can use. Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right, so let's go to PyCharm. And let's try to create a simple REST API, okay, in PyCharm. So let me start sharing PyCharm here. All right, so for this, I'm going to create a new folder. Okay, so I'm going to create a new directory. I'm going to say Miracle REST API. Okay, so that's it. Yeah, it created here, which is fine. I'm going to use from here. So it created inside the Python repo, which I had a git clone and all that. For now, I'm gonna continue there. It doesn't matter, okay? So before we proceed, I want you to go to File, Settings, and search for interpreter. And you should select the project interpreter. And when you select that, you should see some of the packages that were installed. So you can click on the plus sign and then install Django. Okay. So Django is a framework that can help you develop those REST APIs. So I'm going to select Django and I'm going to say install package. Okay. So this is going to install Django in my local computer, and then I should be able to use it. All right. So this is still installing or installing. Yeah, I think it's a big package. It's still installing. So give it a second. And in the meanwhile, if you guys haven't installed it, install it. I installed it, but in a different directory. Now, since I created a new directory, it's trying to install in this local environment. Wow, it's still installing. Okay. All right, yes. Okay. All right. So, but yeah, it's a big package, so it might take some time. Yeah, I should have gone to the previous directory, and maybe that would have been faster. Okay, it's still installing. Give it a second. Yes, yeah, in the meantime, if you haven't installed Django, you can install it. I hope it's complete now. Let's see. It should show up here. It's not showing up. Okay, now it shows up it's successfully installed. Okay, so along with the Django, it installed a couple of other package tools, which is okay. All right, so do that. Go to settings, file settings, select the project interpreter, install Django there. Okay. All right, so once you install Django, you should see at the bottom a terminal. Okay, so click on the terminal here, and I'm going to go to the directory that I just created. Okay, so here I want you to type this command, which is Django admin command. Okay, 1 second. There should be a virtual environment directory here.
So this directory has not been like reflected in my system. Do I need to again?
Sorry, you created a new directory, or are you working on the existing directory?
I'm working on Python repo.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
do I need to create a different directory?
No, that's fine. You can continue. It's better to create a new directory, actually. You know what? Let's create, do mkdir and create a new directory, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, and open that directory, actually. Yeah.
Inside Python repo, right?
Inside PyCharm. You can create outside, actually. Don't create inside. That's a different repository, and this is a different one. Do it outside.
No, actually, you want me to create a directory outside of the Python repository, which we
Yes.
don't.
Yes, outside of repository. Yeah, outside of Python repo.
Okay. So no doubt if we install the Django in normal, like not inside the project interpreter.
Yep.
I just typed interpreter and I just added Django.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Is it gonna work right?
Yeah. I mean, how many interpreters do you see here? Do you see like a virtual environment, VENV? If you don't see, that's okay too, actually.
I see only the virtual on VNV.
Oh, okay. That's perfect. Yeah. Click on that and then add that Django project or add that package Django.
Okay. Yeah, it is there.
It is Django is already there. Okay, perfect. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we want to install that Django under virtual environment. Okay. So what I'm going to do is this. Okay, so I'll try to finish this in the next 20 minutes. Hopefully this environment is going to support me. So I'm going to go to this virtual environment. So since I installed Django there, I should have a Django admin command. So I'm looking for Django admin command. So I'm going to go to that directory, which is PyCharm projects untitled. Okay, so I'm going to go there. So I have my virtual environment in a different directory. And how do I know that directory? I go to file settings. It shows me the interpreter path in here. Okay, it kind of shows, I'm not sure if you can see it, but it shows the entire path here. So I went to that directory, which is a scripts directory. And I see this command, which is Django admin command. Okay, so once you install Django, that admin command should be there. Okay, so I'm going to select that Django admin command and I'm going to say start project. Okay, so I'm going to create a new project, which is like a demo project. Okay, and I will say dot here. Dot means current directory. Okay. Okay, so it created something. So I'm going to do ls directory. All right, let me rerun this. Let me go to Miracle REST API. Let me rerun this one more time. Okay. So if I do directory or yeah, so this is what was created by that previous command. So I'm going to put in the Zoom chat. So what are the directory that virtual environment has? I do Django admin.exe. So if you're on a Mac, you may not have a .exe. You may have just this thing. So I'm going to say start project. Okay. So I put that in the Zoom chat. If you're on a Mac, get rid of the .exe. .exe is only for Windows platforms. Mac, you won't have
But
.exe.
I couldn't find any Django admin.
Oh, okay. Share your screen. Let me see. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a Django. So, okay, it's in the home directory v bin Python, right? Now go to command line.
Yeah.
Leave that here. Yeah, open terminal. I don't see the terminal.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, maybe you shared only that way. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so yeah, so here do pwd. By the way, pwd means present working directory. Okay, so he's in that directory, and do venv or do ls first. Okay, there should be venv directory, right? Yeah, I see that. Okay, venv slash no, just do venv.
Okay.
So this is a folder that you created, REST API.
Yeah.
That's a folder. Okay, do cd REST API first and get rid of this. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, cd REST API. Do ls. Nothing there. Perfect. Okay. Now do // yeah. So venv. Actually // in Mac it's a // in Windows //
Okay.
yeah. venv / do tab here. Go to bin. Yeah. / do tab one more time. Yeah, see the Django admin command. Okay, so let's do Django admin. Yeah, let's Django -admin. You can do tab. I think that should show up. Yeah, okay. Start project. You can name the project demo project or whatever you want. Okay. Yeah, demo one dot. When you say dot, you are creating in the current directory. Okay. Dot. Hit enter. Okay. Now do ls.
Yeah.
So before there were no files, but he has two files now: manage.py and demo1. Okay. Now if you do ls demo1. I think. Yeah, so this is what we want. Okay, so the URL is what are the URLs that you have in your project and all that. So that is what we're going to do now. Okay, so let me go back to my screen. So you are good. You're perfect so far. Okay.
Okay.
right, so same thing here. I have my directory, which is demo underscore project, but I'm on a Windows platform. So I should see these files. Okay. So if I go to URLs file, it will tell me what are the URLs that I want and all that. Okay. So here I'm going to expose a new URL, which is like a students. Okay. Students URL. And I'm going to say, I'm going to create a new file, or maybe, yes, fine. I'm going to create a new file called views.students. Okay. The views should come from here. So I'm going to create a new file called views. Okay, so I create a new file, cancel. Yeah. So here, what we did is this is the URLs module. This is where all the URLs of your website are. So you can have students slash admin slash, or it can be employees and all that. Okay, so last time we are looking at a URL which is like students, right? So you can get post, delete, and all that stuff. Okay, so here I have this students folder. So if you want to expose a new URL, you want to put it inside the Django admin command. Okay, so Django URLs module saying that, hey, I have a new URL, and anytime somebody calls this URL, go to this file called views and call this function called students. Okay, so that is what we are saying here. Okay, and yeah, so here I'm going to go to this file which is like views.py, and I want to create something like students. Okay, and this students is going to get a request. Okay, and I'm just going to say return hello world. Okay, for now this is just a hello world kind of a program. Okay, so what we are doing is we are exposing a new endpoint called students, which is calling this function called students, and inside the views file, and I'm returning this hello world. Okay, so that's all the project is. Okay, so now I'm going to start this project. Okay, to start the project, I'm going to run this command, which is Django admin command. Okay, so or I can go here and I can add a new configuration. Okay, script is going to be, so inside the Python repo, there should be a manage.py. Remember, we are looking at manage.py before, so we're going to use that. Yeah, so manage.py is the one that can bring up the project. So I'm going to say manage.py, and the parameter is going to be the run server. Okay, so that is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say apply and OK. Okay, and I'm going to run the project. All right. So when I run the project, it tells me that it's running the project at this URL, which is 127.0.1 8000. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go here to my browser. Let me share my browser. Okay, I have my browser here. I just copied the URL that was created by the project. I go there. So it tells me that, hey, your Django project is good. Everything is good. The URL that I created was the student's URL. So I'm going to press the student's URL. And it says the current path did not match any one of these. Okay, so let's see. I think there's a slash missing. Students slash. Okay. Something is wrong there. Give me 1 second. Let's try this one more time. So this should display hello world. Let me see. The current path did not match any of these. Because and it displays that this project is installed successfully. And if I go to this URL, that should automatically bring it up. But I think I'm missing one step. So let me actually search on Google. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this should directly go there. Students slash. Let's go to admin page. Let's check the admin. Yes, the admin does work, but for some reason students is not working. Sorry. Okay, so I have the function name as students. So if I go to views, it should be correct actually. Well, this should work directly. Not sure why it's not working. And it says did not match. Students did not match any one of this. Let me just look at some online and see why this is throwing an error. Oh, okay. So I need to actually start the application. Project. Okay, so inside the project, I need to create. Okay, so we ran the Django admin command and I created the project. But inside the project, we also need to create an application. Okay, so let's do that. Okay. Okay, so we created a project, but inside one project, there can be multiple applications. Okay, so we need to create one of the application. So here I'm going to say start app. I'm going to say hello world. Okay, so now we have another folder which is hello world. Let's see. Oh, there are two different folders, Miracle REST API, and inside that there's a demo project. Okay, so I think I'm in the wrong folder actually. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay. Yeah, let me rerun this project. Let's see. It's going back and forth. I'll just give it 1 second. Okay. Okay. Okay, so this brought up this thing. Now let's run that. Okay, at least the error message changed. Okay, now let me go back here. And I got something here. Okay, so let's look at this guy. Okay, so let me change this to HTTP response. So that is going to be, give me 1 second. Yeah, okay. So return a HTTP response here. Hello world. Okay. So I just saved it. Let's rerun this project. Okay. Okay, there you go. Okay. So we got the hello world, as you can see. Now let's say, okay, so I'm going to go back and tell you a couple of things. Yeah, so we have a URLs module. The URLs module says, what are the URLs that you have? Okay, so here I have a student's URL. If you have employees, you can also put that guy, which is employees URL. And when somebody calls this URL, you want something to be executed, right? So that function is what you specify. Okay. So here I want to call inside the views file, there should be an employees thing. Okay. So that is what I'm saying. So go to this file inside the directory that means current directory. There's a views file, which is this guy. Okay. In that file, there should be employees file, employees function, students function, and all that. Okay. So I go there, def employees. So it takes a request and it returns a HTTP response. Okay, so in this case, it's a very simple thing, but you can go to database, you can get the employee information, you can return and all that. Okay, so I saved it. Let me restart this guy. There's a comma missing. Okay, all right. So if I go here, okay, so yeah, so here I'm returning this HTTP response, but that HTTP response can be a JSON response or anything. Okay, so now if I go to Postman and I do a request, so let me start sharing Postman. So here is my Postman, and I'm going to create a new URL, HTTP request, and I'm going to do GET request, and I'm going to send that request. Okay, so when I do that, I get this employees, the same thing that I got in the browser with the status 200 OK and all that. Okay, so remember last time we were discussing 200 means it's a success status code. Okay, so I got back 200 and I got this information. Okay, so now Postman is a client and my Django project is a server. Okay, so now I'm actually sending a response and the Postman is getting getting that response. Okay, but Django is one of the framework that can make it much easier. Okay, so I don't need to do much. Everything is provided by Django. It can start listening on some port number and it will make it easy in the sense I can just add a URL. I can say, hey, return this URL, and internally it's going to take care of getting the data, sending it out, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so I don't have to maintain like listen on an incoming connection or anything like that. Okay, but yeah, pretty much Django project is going to help me. Django framework is going to help me accept those connections, send out responses and everything. Okay, so if I go back to the response, I just did this HTTP response and that's it. Okay, so this is going back to the client and it's giving back this data. Okay, now instead of that, I can even send a JSON response. Okay, so remember we were talking about JSON data last time. Okay, so I can have a key value pair. I can say message is hello world. Okay, and I'm going to restart this guy. Okay, so I'm going to open in Postman because Postman would be better for the JSON data. It got only message. I think I have to set up a header. Okay, so I'm gonna stop it here after this, I guess, but okay, that's fine. Don't worry about this. But yeah, this is what the framework provides, that it has a HTTP response function and I can send out a response that goes to the client. Okay, so the framework takes care of all the things. Like I can just add a URL and I can say what I should do when I get that URL. Okay, so here in employee's case, I'm actually returning this data. Okay, but I can actually go to database, get the data and return that response also. Okay, so that is a Django framework. And the
What about this headers? What is that headers we want to?
Yeah, the headers is something that's going to help it. So right now it's only showing me this message. Okay, I actually have the message as hello world. Okay, so it's only getting the first part. It's not getting the key. So it's not getting the value. There is a header that I need to add that is going to make it get this proper data. But if you're interested, I can just look up on Google. Just give me 1 second. So instead of HTTP response, there is something called a JSON response. Yeah, that's right. So I can just return this. So that is part of I think Github itself. Yeah, okay. I can remove these headers. Okay, so now let me rerun this. And this is part of students. Yeah, okay. See that? So I got a JSON data, which is like, hey, here is a message, hello world, and all that. Okay. So the Django framework can help me with different things. I mean, I can expose my URLs, and it can also tell me that what happens when that URL is called. I can tell it to go execute this function that's inside the views file. There's a function called students. Okay. So there's a file called views, and inside that there's a function students. Okay. So it's going to execute this function when that /students is called. Okay. And here I'm returning a JSON response, but I can actually go to database. To get the students, and then return the students response. But yeah, this Django framework helps you with doing all these things. Okay, so now going to database itself, there's a ORM. Maybe in the next session we're going to talk about how to go to database, get the data. But this is something I just want to give you a picture because.
Bro,
Yep.
I have a doubt. Like with this JSON response function, we are returning this JSON data, right?
Yes.
So if we want to return the same thing using HTTP response, we need to add some header. That is you're saying, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So using HTTP
if we
response
add that
also.
header, even using HTTP response, we can return the JSON data.
Yes,
if we add
that's
header.
Right. That's correct. Yeah. But this, in the sense, I just want to give you a picture of what does Django do, so that if you get a vendor call, you're currently on marketing and you get a vendor call, they might ask you like, hey, what did you do with Django? Now at least you have some idea what to talk about. Okay. So Django, you developed some REST API, you worked with view functions, URL modules, you went to database, got the data, sent it out as a response and all that. Okay. But this is a very high level picture. There are a lot of other things like going to database. How do you go to database, get the data? There is also a file called settings.py. So inside the settings.py, you can specify what is the database name, what is the type of the database and all that. Okay. So here there's a SQLite database, but you can have PostgreSQL, Oracle database or anything. Okay. And Django can go to the database, get the data and all that. Okay. But yeah. I think I'm running over the time, but this is what Django framework is. Okay, so so for the people who haven't pushed out to GitHub, I want you to create some file, push it to github.com, so that at least you know how to make changes, modify, and all those things. Okay. So for now, I'm going to stop here. I'm just want to one small assignment: create a file in Python repo folder for Miracle Solutions LLC with your name or with some name. Create make the changes, commit, and do a push and create a pull request. Okay, so that's just a very small assignment. Okay, so. So, question in the Zoom chat. The more you practice, the better it is. It's better to get an error with a simple project than in the real world situation. Okay, so if you have like hundreds of files, and if you get an error, you'll be very perplexed because you don't know where the error is coming from and all that. But if you have like a simple project and you're working on that, and if you get an error, it's easy to debug. And if you get the same error in the future, you would know what to do. Okay, so always try with a simple project, and this is your time to try with a simple project. Okay, but yeah, try to push a file to the GitHub repo, and then you will get familiar with the GitHub process. Okay. All right, guys. Any questions so far?
So this Django admin, like Django admin.
Yep.
So it is mandatory that it has to be in the same directory where the project is.
It can be any directory anywhere. We just want to, Django admin can create the folders, all the files and all that stuff. Okay. So yeah, we are running that command just to create the folders, the files, so that I can just go and say, here is my URL, take this URL and all that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, all right, guys. So if no questions, I'm going to stop here. But please push that GitHub pull request. Okay. So create that pull request with your own file so that you get used to it. Okay. All right, guys. So I'm stopping the screen sharing, and you guys enjoy your rest of the night.